The Notorious One is planning on making a return in the summer, and the timeline couldn't have worked out any better. As a fan, you can't deny that UFC is a lot more interesting when Conor's active. But who will his next opponent be? Stay tuned, because we'll be discussing that and all of the other recent MMA news. So let's just dive in, shall we? So, will the former double champ make a comeback? Ever since the Floyd Mayweather bout, fans have been speculating whether or not Conor is in the right headspace to compete at the highest level. The man made $100 million. You can't expect him to be as hungry anymore. The Notorious One kept adding to his worth with his next 4 fights and the Proper 12 whiskey brand, leaving fans wondering whether it's the right move for him to continue fighting. Like Marvin Hagler said, it's tough to get out of bed to do road work at 5 a.m. when you're sleeping in silk pajamas. Well, Conor doesn't necessarily agree. Ever since that horrific injury inside the cage, he's been lifting heavy weights and putting on some mass, which is evident from his Instagram posts. Conor has been talking about returning late summer for many months. That's the timeline his doctor gave him when he'd be able to move properly and start a camp. The next fight will be a must-win for McGregor. He has lost 3 of his last 4 fights, and as much as we all hate the pink suit guy, he was speaking the truth. Conor has only 1 win since 2016. Although it's clear that his star power isn't going anywhere, a win is necessary if he wants to still be considered one of the best in the world. There hasn't been a bout agreement signed yet, but we know that Conor wants to jump into the competition as soon as he can against anybody. If you follow him on Twitter, you'd know that he likes to call everyone out. The man can't watch a big UFC card and not call someone out. It's all about the headlines. So, who does he want in his next fight? Making a comeback isn't going to be the hardest part of McGregor's comeback story. Choosing the right opponent is essential at this point in his career. After his loss to Khabib Nurmagomedov in 2018, Conor took an entire year off, and when he returned in 2020, he faced Donald Cerrone, who is a legend in his own right, but wasn't the most dangerous stylistic matchup for Conor. That led to Conor knocking out Cowboy in 40 seconds, and the Irish fans losing their minds as the king was back. For the sake of his career, Conor is going to need a similar type of fight. Even Joe Rogan spoke about this to Mike Tyson on JRE, that Conor needs a favorable matchup or a tune-up fight, which is a fair assessment. However, the former lightweight champ is looking to go in an entirely different direction. He wants to take on the #1 pound-for-pound fighter on the planet, the welterweight champ Kamaru Usman. This will complete his quest of becoming a 3-division UFC champion, the first and only. Now that might sound nuts, but this is Conor we're talking about. If anyone can do it, it's him. After all, no one can take that left hand. In an interview with Oscar Willis, Conor revealed his plan of knocking out Kamaru Usman and becoming the first ever 3-weight world champion. He said there wasn't any danger for him in that fight, and that Usman is a jab-happy, sloppy, orthodox wrestler. Not sure many people would agree with that. It doesn't seem like the timeline would work, as Usman is still injured and waiting for his hand to be healed. His next opponent was announced to be Leon Edwards. Thank God that's finally happening. Although Uncle Kale did say that Leon Edwards was offered millions to step aside and let Conor get the title shot first. Leon immediately dismissed the rumors, guessing that was just Kale being Kale. Next, Nate Diaz trilogy? It's not likely that the Usman fight would take place. Realistically speaking, now seems like the perfect time for Conor to run it back with Nate Diaz for a 3rd time. Nate's only got 1 fight left on his contract, and he's been going back and forth with Dustin Poirier on Twitter for ages. That is a fan-friendly fight. Both guys love to stand and bang, and they want to compete against each other. But the UFC still hasn't booked that fight. Not to make any assumptions, but it's pretty obvious that they're stalling Nate so that he could fight Conor once his foot is healed. It might sound like a dirty move, but it's good business. This way, they can make possibly the biggest fight in UFC history by putting together arguably the 2 biggest stars on the roster in a long-awaited trilogy. Conor once said, "It's only business." Up next, the lightweight strap. When you're the champion of the world, you only fight the best of the best. You want to face the most devastating contender to prove that you're #1. But all that goes out the window when you're offered a red panty night. Dana White has openly admitted that the rules don't apply to Conor. In other words, as El Kukui said, he's got Dana White privilege. And why wouldn't he? He's the biggest star the sport has ever seen. Dustin Poirier admittedly gave away his title shot to Michael Chandler just so he could face Conor again. It's true, money talks. The UFC lightweight champ Charles Oliveira has also shown interest in the Conor fight for the same reasons. He said he would be willing to let him jump the line and fight the title directly. Somewhere in the world, Leon Edwards and Islam Makhachev are punching the wall after hearing this. Next, the main event Chito gets it done. The UFC Fight Night on April 30th saw Marlon Chito Vera taking on Rob Font in his first main event. The 5-round striking war was action-packed, and more than 300 combined shots were landed. Font outlanded Chito by almost 100 strikes, but Chito landed a lot cleaner and made Font's face look like a bloody mess by the end. Vera got the win by unanimous decision, solidifying himself as the title contender. Welcome to the bantamweight top 5, Chito. Still think the Sean O'Malley fight was a fluke? Well, no one can help you then. Now, Amanda Serrano versus Katie Taylor. Another major fight card on April 30th saw Amanda Serrano challenge for the 135-pound title against Katie Taylor. This historic historic pay-per-view was the first time two women headlined a card at Madison Square Garden. Want to know the best part? We saw the two best pound-for-pound boxers go at it. The bout was scheduled for 10 two-minute rounds. The fight was co-produced by Eddie Hearn and none other than the problem child himself, Jake Paul. The two co-promoters even had a bet of $1 million. Jake Paul was supporting his friend Amanda Serrano, and Eddie Hearn was there for his fellow European Katie Taylor. As silly as that may be, it helped get more eyeballs on the bout. The match was super close, and Katie Taylor got the win by a razor-thin decision. There wasn't any loser in this bout, and it was women's boxing that got the big W. This is the reason why we love combat sports. Up next, UFC returns to Phoenix, Arizona for a massive pay-per-view. One of the most anticipated cards of 2022 will take place this week. That's right, we are in the fight week of UFC 274, headlined by Charles "Do Bronx" Oliveira, defending his lightweight belt against the human highlight reel Justin Gaethje. This fight is a guaranteed barn burner. Why? Well, because it's a Justin Gaethje fight. The former interim lightweight champion gets his second crack at the undisputed belt, the first one being unsuccessful against Khabib Nurmagomedov. With coach Trevor Whitman in his corner and the pound-for-pound king Kamaru Usman as a training partner, Gaethje feels like this is where his destiny will be fulfilled. Do Bronx would be looking to defend his belt for the second time. In his last fight, he submitted Justin Poirier in the third round after facing some early adversity and proved all the doubters wrong. Stylistically, this fight couldn't be more exciting. Will Gaethje get the KO, or will Do Bronx extend his win streak to 12? Give us your predictions in the comments. In the co-main event, Thug Rose will take on Carla Esparza in a rematch for the ages for the strawweight title. Their last meeting took place at the Tough finale, where Esparza beat Rose and became the inaugural strawweight champ. The Cookie Monster looks to repeat history by taking the belt away from Rose. This fight is as 50-50 as it can get. The main card will also feature Michael Chandler taking on Tony Ferguson in a must-win fight for both athletes. Shogun Hua takes on Ovin St. Pro, and Donald Cowboy Cerrone will go for one last ride against Joe Lauzon. The card couldn't be more action-packed, and we can't possibly think of a scenario in which these fights aren't exciting. We know what we're doing Saturday night. Do you? Well, that's a wrap for this video. Who would you like to see in the cage with Conor next? Let us know in the comments below, and make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos just like this. We'll see you in the next one.